What's going on, everybody? We have a bit of breaking news, so going live quickly just to talk about it for a few minutes. The Buffalo Bills have addressed the wide receiver position by making a trade with the Chicago Bears and trading for DJ Moore, the 28-year-old wide receiver. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Right off the bat, I have yet to see compensation for this trade posted. Still looking for that. My hunch is this is not going to be an expensive trade for the Bills as far as compensation goes, because the Bears were very motivated to get DJ Moore off their roster, and I will explain why. One, his role had reduced in recent years with drafting Rome Odunze in the top 10 2 seasons ago, and then last year spending first and second round picks on Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, respectfully. So when you look at that, and then you look at the way his contract was structured, had the Bears just released him, they would have taken on $35 million in dead money. By trading him to the Buffalo Bills, as is reported today, they actually clear up $16 million in cap space. So this is a big move for the Bills. This is a big move for the Bears. Yes, and Edward, another Carolina Panther. Well, I mean, that was several years ago, but I would be stunned if this was more than like a fifth round pick for DJ Moore or even a pick swap. This is not going to be the Stefon Diggs compensation when they sent a first and multiple picks. That's just not what's happening here. So what are the Bills getting in DJ Moore? This is a guy that throughout his career has been the primary target in offenses he's been in. He has had a quarterback problem. In fact, until this season, which is kind of comical when his role reduced and Caleb Williams took a massive leap, he hasn't had a consistent quarterback. But in 2023 with Justin Fields and 2024 with rookie Caleb Williams prior to Ben Johnson coming there, and it was a train wreck, DJ Moore combined those 2 seasons for 2,300 yards and had 90 catches in each of those years. He is a very productive football player. He's a good route runner. He's good after the catch. And he gives the Bills something in this offense that they have desperately lacked. Now, as far as DJ Moore goes, I don't expect the Bills to be done. This is not a move you make where it's like, all right, now it's DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir, Joshua Palmer. If they keep Keon Coleman, great. If not, then he'll be here, and then we'll see if Tyrell Shavers is healthy. No, you can't do that. This is the type of move where this is move number one of what needs to be a series of moves for these Buffalo Bills. And hopefully this is a sign of what's to come for these Bills. Now, DJ Moore is a guy that can, so looking at over the cap here, this is kind of what we just hit on, but trading DJ Moore frees up $16 million in cap room. The Bills will take on $24.5 million in 2026. Now, here's the problem with that. The Bills don't have $26.5 million in 2026 on their cap space, and they have to clear up that room on their cap to push this trade through on Wednesday, which is the start of the league year. There are moves the Bills can make in order to make that happen. They are going to restructure Josh Allen's contract. That's going to free up quite a bit of space. I can get the numbers here for that. They are going to, I think, it's not a matter of if, but when, they are going to release Curtis Samuel, which should give the Bills an additional $6 million in space. Restructuring Josh Allen's contract, according to Over the Cap, would save them about $12.5 million. If they restructure Deion Dawkins, which makes a lot of sense, they could save another $11 million. And then if you cut Curtis Samuel, you save $6 million. And then another cut candidate that I think for the Bills makes a lot of sense is Taylor Rapp. And that is a move that could also save the Bills a little bit of money. So there are moves the Bills can make. They could also do something with Dawson Knox's contract, but they're going to have to be compliant and enough to get this deal on the book. So I agree with Zach. They're going to have to rework his deal. And it makes sense for DJ Moore, too. He's 28 years old. He's getting a shot with an elite quarterback here in Josh Allen. But he only has, I believe, $12 million or $16 million guaranteed left on his deal after this season. So it makes sense for them to basically tear up that deal, start from scratch with a new deal, allow it to be much more palatable on the cap than what it is right now at $24.5 million, but also bake in some guaranteed money. But until you have to get him on your roster first, and that's the tricky part. So the Bills have to make room to fit that 26 million, or what did Jason from Over the Cap say? 24 million from Over the Cap as far as getting DJ Moore on the roster. Let me know what you think about the Bills making this move. I still think you should take a day one or day two receiver. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Bills receiving group prior to this trade, when you look at what's on the books for 2026, is Khalil Shakir, Joshua Palmer, who's going to be here whether you like it or not, just because his contract dictates he'll be here, and Keon Coleman. And despite all the messaging coming out about Keon Coleman and how excited the Bills are and Joe Brady is about him being in the offense, I still think it's well within the realm of possibilities, if not probable, that the Bills will trade Keon Coleman either before the draft or even after the draft or during the draft or whatever. Also, you look at Mecole Hardman. He's a futures deal. That's the same thing as Stephen Gosnell and Jalen Virgil. These are not guys that are part of a championship wide receiver group. And then Tyrell Shavers, who did come on last year, primarily in the run blocking game, tore his ACL in January. So how much can you count on him coming in to the season? Sam says, definitely not mad, but just want to see what we gave up. I'm with you, Sam. I am bracing for the compensation. Brandon Beane is a spender, so it makes me nervous that maybe, just maybe, he overspent on this, but I still think there's no way this is more than a 5th round pick. The Bears were very motivated to get him off their roster, and they had to find a team that was willing to take on $26 million in cap space. That can be reworked, but that has to take on that initial $26 million in cap space. And there are other receivers out there that outrank DJ Moore when you look at someone like A.J. Brown. So the Bills making this move today probably certainly takes them out of the A.J. Brown sweepstakes. So I think from a Bears standpoint, you didn't have Brandon Beane up against the wall saying, hey, you better give me a 3rd round pick or I'm not going to do this. I would be floored. I would be flabbergasted. I would be stunned if the Bills gave up a day 2 pick for DJ Moore. It's just not going to be the reality. I think a 4 would even be way too high. Albert Breer says, the Bills had sniffed around on A.J. Brown and Alec Pierce, so they were actively looking for wide receiver help. They wind up with DJ Moore, who will be reunited with Joe Brady. Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator in Carolina in 2020 and 2021. Now, look, what does this do for the Bills in free agency? Your guess is as good as mine. My guess is this probably cools them on the idea of adding an Alec Pierce, a Romeo Doubs, or a Rashid Shaheed. I don't love the Rashid Shaheed idea at all. I get that he is a cult hero because he went to Seattle and Seattle won the Super Bowl and he had some electric kick returns along the way. But what have you seen from the Buffalo Bills in recent years that tells you they would take advantage of that skill set? He is, to me, a deep threat wide receiver, and I just think he's a more flashy version of what they would use Khalil Shakir for. He's going to basically catch bubble screens here. He is not a well-rounded wide receiver. I had no interest in that. DJ Moore is a well-rounded wide receiver. Christopher says we need to cut Curtis Samuel. Agreed. That is a formality. I can't even tell you why at this point, Christopher, that hasn't happened. It's going to save the Bills $6 million in cap. He hasn't been available for these Bills when he's been on the field. He hasn't been productive. So all around, that's a no-brainer move for these Buffalo Bills. That is going to be something that certainly happens here with the DJ Moore trade also coming in. Still frantically looking for any kind of cap or of compensation here. Let's see. Spot Track says, barring a renegotiation, the Bills will acquire DJ Moore on a 4-year deal, $98.4 million. So 24.5 against the cap. But what's interesting about that is the Bills do have until March 13th, and that on March 13th, $15.5 million of his 2027 salary becomes fully guaranteed. So there is a baked-in deadline there for both the Bills and DJ Moore to get a new deal done. The rest of that $24.5 million in 2028 and 2029 is fluff. It's unguaranteed money. The Bills can absolutely cut that. Now, Spot Track also says, Upon acquiring him, the Bills can process a full salary conversion on DJ Moore, lowering his cap hit in 2026 to 6.75 million, which is makes a ton of sense. And then you push the rest of that into the future as guaranteed money. So that, even if you don't want to extend DJ Moore and you want to let this play out on essentially a 2-year deal, that's probably the way the Bills will go. They will convert his salary into a signing bonus, which works out well for the player. You add more guaranteed, but from a cap standpoint, it peanut butter spreads it across the rest of the life of the deal and allows the Bills to have a manageable cap situation. So what I expect from this DJ Moore thing to be, notwithstanding the fact that he's initially going to be a $24.5 million cap hit until the Bills do rework that deal or restructure it, I expect the outcome of today is the Bills gave up a day 3 draft pick, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th round for a wide receiver who instantly comes in and becomes their number one, who's 28 years old, who's ultimately going to count $6.75 million against the cap. So for that, I love this move. I need the other parts of this to come through. But I agree with the chat. This is not the last move. They still need to draft receivers, or they could look in free agency for some budget receivers. But this was a move that absolutely needed to happen. Will says, second most expensive receiver room as of right now, and I still don't think they're close to having a wide receiver core. That's true, Will. And here's the issue with that. When you sign guys like Curtis Samuel, who I'm assuming, Will, you're baking his contract into what you're saying when you say as of right now, and that's totally fair. Curtis Samuel's going to be gone. He's going to be off the books. The Joshua Palmer contract looks terrible, but how much of that is because Joshua Palmer was never healthy last year, and how much of that is just who he is? When the Bills signed Joshua Palmer last year, Luca and I were more underwhelmed than I think the majority of content creators and fans out there, just because he's a guy that never really made his mark in LA, and this was the story of Joshua Palmer. He'd tease you with a couple of good games, and then he'd disappear for a month with an injury. And that's basically what happened in Buffalo, where that first quarter in Atlanta looked like, holy cow, where's this Joshua Palmer been for the rest of the season? And then he's gone for basically the rest of the year. So I think Will says after they cut Curtis Samuel, they're going to be 4th in wide receiver money. The DJ Moore money is fake money because after 2027, it's non-guaranteed money. The Bills are certainly not going to give him that. And they're going to restructure his deal, and he's going to be on the Bills cap for $6.75 million. The Joshua Palmer deal certainly is one they have to address, and Khalil Shakir got a second contract. So yes, the contracts don't look great on the Bills right now, but you can't let that stop you from making moves. This is going to end up being, despite what the cap hit and the contract looks like, a cost-effective move for the Bills, ultimately being a day 3 pick for a guy that's going to cost less than $7 million against your cap. And that's exactly what the Bills needed to do. I applaud the Bills for this, and they better not be done. This can't be your final answer. This is a great start. It's March 5th. Free agency doesn't start until, well, next Monday, if you want to talk about legal tampering, but next Wednesday. So this is a great start for the Bills, but they're absolutely not done. So from there, I think we're going to get out of here. This was just a quick hit. Let's talk about DJ Moore. Appreciate you all coming in. We'll find out together what the Bills ended up giving up for DJ Moore. But the Bills have a new wide receiver. They needed one this offseason. They needed multiple ones this offseason. A good start to free agency for the Bills, but there's more work to do. I am Josh McCarty. Luca and I will be back on Monday morning for a Bills Chat podcast that will almost certainly include a lot of conversation about DJ Moore. And then we are planning on going live this next Wednesday as free agency day 1, but we should have a lot of deals to talk about with the tampering period opening on Monday. So I appreciate you all hanging out, and I will talk to you all next time on Bills Chat.